when people go hungry, they find themselves their way to Lagos. And so Lagos needs to focus on that core comparative advantage, and you know, it's working. And one other thing that I've seen happening recently, in 2019, we carried out a field research with Honorable Desmond Elliott in Surulere to try to see how we can make food cheaper. So we did it for a week, and the findings from that is what we've worked on for 2 years now to begin to scale food, to making it cheaper in Surulere. And if we do that in Surulere in 2023, 2024, then we can scale it across.
The average Lagos resident does not feed on most of these vegetables that you have pointed out. They feed on what other states will be bringing in for Lagos. So how does that make it cheap?
So one of the things that I know that has been in the pipeline for some time now, which you've seen in the last 2 years, of creating 2 markets along that Aja to Ekpe, no big one. So we have minimal 12s, 2 of those happening in that axis. Don't forget, food is cheaper. Yes, the economy has challenges, but it's cheaper compared to when everybody has to come to Mile 12 from Ekpe, you know, to Mile 12 to buy food and take it back. Now they have it closer, so in terms of logistics, it's cheaper. But the truth is, we have to depend on other states to bring in a lot of foods, and we create platform. Let me tell you this. A lot of food is cheaper in Lagos than in Abeokuta, than in...
Really?
Yes. So this is what happens. This is the dynamics that we need to be talking about. When you bring food from Nasarawa and Co., there are some...
The costs
of bringing is huge. Then when you get to Mile 12, it's cheaper because everybody brings to Mile 12. So it's cheaper in Mile 12 than you have in Abeokuta. Because everybody in Abe is more. I farmed across Southwest. I farmed extensively in the north. Yes, in those suburbs in the north, it's cheaper. But when you compare it to Port Harcourt, because we have to compare Port Harcourt, Abuja, Lagos, the cosmopolitan, there are a lot of things cheaper in Lagos. What makes it expensive is the cost of transportation between Mile 12 and where you buy it, which is one of the things that the commissioner has spoken about. That decentralization of market. It's been in the pipeline for some time.
That's why many people go to Mile 12 to go and buy food. And
yes. Yeah, it's the cheapest and K2. But right now, don't forget during COVID, the market was fully decentralized. You had the secondary schools, primary schools, people could buy food there. This is one thing I believe Lagos should focus on, such that more foods will come in. When I used to grow watermelons, I was producing 80 acres, and a particular year, a big retired general in the Middle Belt.
Yes, more retired general. He was bigger. He's a general of generals.
You know, produce watermelons. They just told him this thing is selling, and he produced about 250 hectares, about 500 acres. And we do small. What we were to sell, a passenger bus that was sold for 120, 240,000, crashed to 25,000 because the general produced. And so we could not sell. So, but what we did was to move it closer to churches and big mosques, and we sold. And we sold double the price we would have sold in Mile 12, but the quality was better. So bottom line is that when you have a lot of products in Mile 12 and there's no space for those trucks to get, they begin to sell cheaper. So there's a lot of food waste. But when we are able to move it, create a system to move it, when food is moving, it becomes cheaper because the farmers are producing and they will keep producing. So logistics is crucial now.
They talk about storage in Lagos.
So with storage, you see, except for the government needs to work on storage for the food security. Like I say this, and I've been saying it for a couple of years, we may have a challenge with food supply from the northern part of the country within maybe 18 months.
Why?
There's always a trend of a map. There's a viral disease, there's a drought, there's something that shows up. And once it shows up, we depend too much on the north, as in the country, not region now, that other regions need to begin to position such that if these things happen, there was a tomato Ebola a few years ago, where the whole country didn't have tomatoes. But we need to begin to develop other Central, South, and co, so that if there's a challenge in the North, we can come out to support them also with food. That is a conversation that we've not seen. You saw it happen in Europe when it didn't rain for almost 45 days, and food could not move across Europe. If it happened to Europe, it's going to happen here. You know, so a lot of trends have been happening globally that has been happening in Nigeria, but it's not making media. Our dams are receding, and during the rainy season, it fills again. But bottom line is, what happened some years ago where the Kara Bridge and water dried up from one side and it was going, it happened in California. Google a Folsom Dam. But we explained it with some science things here. They did something about it. So the events that created a 5-year drought in California has been happening in Nigeria in the last 6-7 years also. So it's just going to happen sometime soon, and that's why the food pack that Lagos is doing is very crucial, because Lagos will feel the heat the most. But Lagos is more of a consumption state. So food needs to come and we need to consume. We only need to consume cheaper. That's crucial. So for everything that is going to waste across the states and the country, push it to Lagos. I have said this many times. United States is one of the leading producers of tomatoes. At the same time, they are one of the largest importers of tomatoes also. They import fresh tomatoes that they blend to eat, and they use the tomatoes they produce to produce paste. So bottom line is that comparative advantage. They would use their corn and soya to take tomatoes from Mexico and co. It's always trade. So Lagos also needs to trade the market platform with other states to ensure that things work.
Right.
You know,
Okay. Talking about water.
Quickly, because we have just 3 minutes time to go. What more should we improve on in terms of credit and all of that within the state?
Yes, within the state, it's more of private sector that should do that. Government should just, I'm looking forward to a program where you will have the governor to have a conversation with cooperatives in Lagos. The oil and gas cooperatives, the multinational cooperatives, to say, pick a value chain and fund it. That will ensure that there's no logistic challenges and co.
I was just musing on this a report recently that said that Nigerians are one of the worst countries in nutrition. I don't know if you saw that. Nigerians don't really get enough nutrition. When we go around with our agricultural policies, there's also the other aspect of enlightenment, where people have to know that you don't have to have a bar of 5,000 naira a bar, eat and a kwama of 2 naira, and then you feel that you are
6 to 6.
When I was defending my project in school, I read snails, and I knew my professors, they were all going to be, very intense on me. So I said, if you have ever told your children that make sure you finish the eba or the rice before you take the meat, there's poverty in your family. Because the children need more protein than the big thing. And so all of them could not talk. They could not criticize me again, and they gave me a pass mark because they didn't want to show that there was poverty. So bottom line is nutrition. Lagos should be talking about nutrition more than just having food
on the table.
And that speaks to the quality of food that comes in, which is the eating hunger. So right now, when you say corn is not corn. There's corn that is high in vitamin A, which is good for your eyes. There's another corn that is good in lysine and tryptophan, that are essential amino acids. There is another corn that is high in protein.
How do we identify all of them? They look the same.
This is specialization now. This is Lagos. It's an urban center where you should be talking about we have 5 types of corn. What do you want? Do you need to increase your vitamin A? This corn is available. Do you need to increase your lysine and tryptophan? So specialization is what I see that these platforms and these parks, because traceability is crucial for the Lagos Park also. So this, in the next 4 years, I believe we will see that happen. And it's not for government. It's just the platform. It's the private sector that should latch on this.
Yeah, when we were growing up, they used to hear people say that, if you give a child egg, you will steal. If you give a child meat, it's poverty that's causing
poverty. It's poverty. And I'm not saying all is rosy. Last 2 years have been challenges, but I can tell you 2023, 2024, if you understand the mapping, election year and post-election year is good.